you piece of shit!
Did you hold your breath and root for the children of boomers to destroy the beast within the shopping mall back in 2019? Did you also register the thinly veiled anti capitalist metaphor? Anyone? Anyone? Maybe it's just me. Coincidentally, 2019 was also the year the St. Louis Mills Mall officially closed. The $20 million mall in Hazelwood, Missouri opened in 2003, meaning it lasted about 16 years before it was abandoned. That makes it the youngest dead mall in the area, behind the ancient 56-year-old Crestwood Mall, the 41-year-old Jamestown Mall, the 21-year-old St. Louis Center, and the 20-year-old enclosed Northwest Plaza Mall. But I don't really want to talk about the dead Mills Mall. Rather, let's contemplate the development just across the highway, the Mears Goodwill Outlet Store, the place where our consumer goods slash cast-off slash charitable donations go to die. Here, one can give no longer desirable commodities a second chance at the low price of $1.59 a pound. It was from this Mears Goodwill Outlet Store that I purchased 2 yards of an original P. Kaufman outdoor design fabric, which I later found on eBay for $12.99, making this an exceptionally good deal for me. It is indeed a lovely piece of fabric. Now let's talk about the Leipzig Trade Fair. The Leipzig Trade Fair, according to Wiki, first appears in the historical record in 1165. In 1268, Margrave Theodoric of Landsberg assured all merchant travelers to Leipzig that they would have full protection for person and goods, even if their sovereign was at feud with him, a sort of early precursor of the sanctuary city concept, if you will. The Industrial Revolution fueled the growth of the Leipzig Trade Fair, making it the most important trade fair in all of Germany, attracting merchants from across Europe and beyond. After World War I, the Leipzig Trade Fair took advantage of this increased mobility of goods, and in this way was able to overcome many of the obstacles that had disrupted German commerce after World War I. This powerhouse of commerce was also a cultural hub that fostered the exchange of ideas and promoted international and social interaction. This was the Leipzig in which Peter Hans Kaufmann came of age. Sort of. Well, not only this part of Leipzig, anyway. Despite being a cultural hub and economic powerhouse with a diverse industrial base, Leipzig was not immune to the rise of anti Semitism, which would eventually take over Germany. I cannot easily trace Mr. Kaufmann's movements from Leipzig once the mass deportations began, and I'm not really sure I want to do this. Kaufmann would have been about 24 years old at this time. According to the Yad Vashem deportations database, most of the Jews of Leipzig were deported to the Theresienstadt ghetto in Czechoslovakia, which served as a quote-unquote model camp. Here, camp officials sifted through the Jewish population to determine if a Jewish individual had some value or significance or international connections. These Jewish people could stay in the camp as opposed to moving on to someplace like Auschwitz. The Nazis could then show off Theresienstadt for the cameras and thereby show international humanitarian agencies from neutral countries how compassionately they were treating the displaced Jewish populations. The Jews in this camp had to smile through their suffering because their lives depended on it. At some point prior to 1947, Kaufmann ended up in England, where he married his wife, Ruth Brownsberg, a Jewish woman originally from Hanover, Germany, and they had their first child in London. On February 22nd of 1947, the Kaufmann family boarded the Falstrada and arrived in New York on March 4th, 1947. 10 years later, in 1957, Peter Hans Kaufmann founded his company, P. Kaufmann Inc., which imported grayish goods, or undyed, unbleached raw fabrics, and then dyed, printed, and generally created beautiful finished fabrics. P. Kaufmann Inc. had a history of making successful strategic acquisitions in the textile industry, each time increasing its share of the market by adding new accounts with the newly acquired businesses. The company seems to have gone about these acquisitions ethically. For example, in 2014, when P. Kaufmann acquired Golding, another grayish goods converter company located in Archdale, North Carolina, Lance Garcia, then president of P. Kaufmann Fabrics, said, P. Kaufmann's primary contribution will be financial support and there will be no changes to Golding's sales force, order department, or warehouse location. Both Graham and Linda Buckner will remain actively involved in Golding Fabrics as president and vice president of marketing, respectively. Over the years, the company expanded into one of the leading converters in the industry and employed over 400 people. Peter Hans Kaufmann died on January 20th, 2004 at the age of 86. According to his obituary, he was known for his respect and generosity with which he treated his employees, and the foresight he had in preparing a younger generation of leaders to take over the management of the company at a time when Mr. Kaufman was still vibrant and capable of running the company he founded. Kaufman's company operated under the motto, "Success, but not at any price." Kaufman built a lasting legacy. This, along with his business motto, seems to suggest that he valued fair treatment of his employees, integrity in business dealings, prioritizing sustainable business practice, and avoiding short-term gains. The pennies I spent on this piece of fabric from the Goodwill outlet store across from the Dead Mall was a valuable investment in my education. It was truly a pleasure working with Mr. Kaufman's fabric. In conclusion, maybe our modern American society does not need to shift as dramatically as
Flee this, you ugly piece of shit!
maybe we just need to shift slightly in how we interact with our environment, with the objects around us, and in relations to the peoples in our lives. Maybe we can just more fully embody a motto like,